What's up, ninjas? I'm going to be doing a little review on different styles of boots, not necessarily brands of boots. I see and get a lot of questions from people that know I do a lot of backcountry stuff, hunting wise, asking questions about what type of boot they should be using. And also I see a lot of those questions pop up on different forums and Facebook groups and things like that. So I just wanted to kind of break down the different styles of boots that I use and why I use them, and also discuss a little bit about fit and how to get the proper fit, and hopefully be helpful for you. I know seasons are pretty much winding down for people, so it's now a good time to look at your gear for next year, kind of things that failed you, and make sure you're better prepared for 2020. So a little background for me: I've been ultra running, mountain climbing, mountain hunting, backpacking for about 15 years. I spent about 200 days a year in the mountains, running, hunting, backpacking, things like that. About 100 plus of those days, is spent with a backpack on too. So I've had a lot of failures, and I found what really works for me and my style of doing things. So hopefully this could be helpful for some of you. So I'm gonna start from left to right, kind of like the minimal support going up to more of your upper end level support. So here's just it's a basic trail runner. I use trail runners a lot, especially for turkey hunting and also early season deer hunting. And the reason I do that is they're super lightweight. They have good grip, and if my feet get wet, they dry out pretty easily. And also I can move through the woods a lot quieter with a more flexible sole than I can with some of the stiffer ones. This is all based mainly on mountain type hunting. It's not rubber boot stuff. And for me, the things that are important for any type of boot is what type of rubber is used on the sole. I'm a big fan of Vibram rubber. From my experience with climbing shoes and everything else, it tends to have the most grippy feel. So when I'm running or in the mountains, I feel pretty confident about wet rocks or a little bit of snow or anything like that. And when I'm hunting with these, what I like to do is just partner them up with a little small gaiter. Like I use the First Light mid-height gaiter that goes over, just kind of keep debris from getting down in my shoe. But this shoe that I've been using for the last, I believe, 4 years is the La Sportiva Mutant. And my recommendation on boot brands, everybody, they're going to fit different people's feet differently. So one brand may fit your foot a little bit better than others. So I tell people all the time, find which one works best for your foot, not for somebody else's recommendation what worked for them. And I tend to stick with mountaineering based companies because ultimately they've had the most experience in very critical environments. So I tend to go that way more than so like a pure hunting brand shoe. But these are really comfortable. Like I said, if your feet get wet, they're ventilated, so they dry out pretty good. You can be a lot more nimble in the mountains. If you're stalking, you can be quieter because it's softer sole, and they've really worked well for me. I use them a lot for early season whitetail as well, and anywhere 30 to 40 pounds on my back, I feel very comfortable in a trail runner. But depends on what your ankle strength is. I mean, I've been ultra running for almost 15 years, so over time I've built up a lot of ankle strength, so I can handle a lot more load with less support. But a lot of different companies make a good trail runner. It's really good, and really good for training as well when you're doing off-season training. But I would look into something like that if it could be your style. The second boot here is what you would call more of a hiker style. This particular one is the Soleil. I think it's called their Trainer GTX, which it has a Gore-Tex liner. For me, what I found over the last 4 or 5 years is my feet sweat pretty bad anyway, and with Gore-Tex, for whatever reason, doesn't allow my feet to vent as much, so I end up getting a lot sweatier Gore-Tex boots. But you know, if it's an early season hunt or any season hunt and it's real rainy, it does keep your feet from getting soaking wet. But I you know, kind of moved more really to just going with just a really good leather style boot. But there again, this particular boot does have the Vibram sole, and you know, like I said, it works out very well. This has been a good boot. It's first product I've ever bought from Slade. But you know, there's a lot of other products out there, you know, they're similar to this from different companies, and I just, you know, suggest trying those. But you know, it is more of an approach style hiker, so you have a rubber all across the front, which again, a lot of companies make that same style, and the laces go all the way to the toe, so really helps get a, you know, good fit when you tighten them down. And you know, the mid height's going to give you a little bit more ankle support for, you know, unstable terrain. Backpack also keep debris from going down in there. But you know, I traditionally used a hiker for everything. I mean, I packed out, you know, essentially a half an elk, you know, which is around 90 pounds or so, with a hiker style. But you know, you do get a little bit of instability if you're doing a lot of side hilling or going on a lot of you know, steep declines. You know, I don't have as much problem going uphill as sometimes losing traction going downhill. But you know, for that I always partner some trekking poles. But you know, I use these for years above this, and but I started doing a lot of research and listening to a lot of podcasts from, you know, sheep hunters. And I think sheep hunters, for anybody that's mobile backcountry style hunting, you know, a good resource for people that spend as many days as like a sheep hunter does, or a sheep guide in the backcountry. And a lot of guys talk about a stiffer boot being real important for, you know, foot fatigue over multiple days. And I was skeptical of that because, you know, they are a lot heavier. But I actually ended up having a injury this year where I tore my ankle out. So it took me about 4 months of rehabbing and to get any level of stability, and never had any problems with my ankle, but had an incident in jiu-jitsu where I tore a lot of tendons and ligaments back in April of 19, and had an elk hunt coming up in September. And I was just, you know, my elk hunts are backcountry, you know, 7 to 9 days, and I didn't want to get back there and, you know, end up having stability issues because, you know, from a emergency standpoint, you know, you roll an ankle in the backcountry and you're with just you and your partner, it's going to be pretty involved to get somebody out, even with a rolled spring or broken ankle. So I ended up looking at more of a mountaineer stiffer boot, and just for that extra level of protection. And so I bought, you know, this style. It's all leather. It's a La Sportiva too. I've used them for years, and I really like their products, and they fit my foot very well. And I was pretty skeptical because I always felt like the additional couple pounds of weight was going to slow me down over time. But what I found through a hunt this year was, on the elk hunt, was it actually helped me a lot day-to-day foot fatigue. We do a lot of side hilling. Side hilling is really tough on you, really tough on your feet, and will wear you out. But with a stiffer boot, it side hills very well. It also edges very well if you're going up really steep stuff. And you know, the traction on these is just extremely aggressive. So, you know, never had any problems with slippage. Also, it had the Vibram rubber, so any type of wet rock, you know, we deal with a lot of shell and stuff like that up in the mountains and out west. And I was really impressed. I ended up using this all whitetail season, actually, just because how much I liked it. I mean, it took a while to break in, but it was ended up being a really good boot. I mean, they do cost some money. I think this pair was like $300 or something, but you know, it's a good quality leather, very durable. Probably last you if you take care of it, condition it every year. You'll probably get 5 years plus out of it. And you know, the thing with quality boots is you're going to pay a little bit more, but the last thing you want to happen is be out in the backcountry on a, you know, a lot of people elk hunting or some hunt out west is sometimes a once in a lifetime experience. You don't want to go out there and blow the soles out of your boots and you're, you know, 5-6 miles back. And having to tape them up or anything like that. But I've seen a lot of benefits of going with a stiffer boot. Now, I won't be using this for turkey or early season because it's I can go with a lighter boot, but really secure with heavier weight. I do a lot of training with 30 to 40 pounds in my pack, and I go up to 60 and 70 a few days towards the end of my training cycle. Another thing to talk about with boots though is getting the proper fit. Most of your mountaineering brands are European sized, and there's usually a cross reference on their websites for your American size, and what most of them suggest is doing that crossover plus a half size to get a good fit. But there again, you really need to try them on in your house for a few days to see if they work. One of the most important things with any boot is making sure it's properly fit. So the best way to do that is to loosen up your laces, put the boot on, kick your toe all the way to the end, and you want about a finger's width behind your heel. Because why you want that little bit of gap there is once you tighten that boot up and it feels secure and you're going downhill, you need a little bit of room at the front of the toe box to keep your feet from jamming. And essentially with a good fit, what you'll experience is if you're on a steep decline, you'll have enough room at the end to move your toes. What can happen, and what's happened to me over the years, is if you're cramming your toe in the end of your shoe, which from a trail running perspective, it's hard to do because I don't give that much space in my trail shoes because it's more technical running and terrain, so I like to be a little bit more nimble. But the more you cram your toes into the end of your shoes, it's going to mess your toes up. I essentially don't have 6 toenails because of that. It's not real attractive. But the way you can keep that from happening is making sure you have plenty of space at the end of your foot box. Another good thing to think about with fit is if your toes or the sides of your feet feel at all cramped, you probably need to go to a wider size. And anytime you're trying on boots, try them on with the socks that you're going to be using the most. I prefer a merino wool sock. I completely transitioned to those and different weights for all of my activities. I don't get any blister issues. They don't stink. For a backcountry hunt, I only take 1 extra pair of socks, and they tend to hold up. I personally use Darn Tough as my brand. I had the best success for longevity out of those, but there's a lot of other good brands out there. But as far as gear selection goes, in my opinion, one of the most important pieces of your gear is your boots. Because if you can't get back to where you're going, nothing else is going to matter. You're not going to have a good time, especially on some of the longer hunts, or if you're on a week rut hunt in the mountains and you're walking up and down hills and you get blisters and things like that. You're not going to have a good experience, or if your shoes are falling apart. So boots, your footwear is highly important for your gear selection, and then packs are, I would say, number 2 for me, which I'll be doing a pack review here in a few weeks, talking about what I use and how I use it, and giving a breakdown on that, 'cause that's another question I see and get a lot. And then number 3, this mainly pertains to backcountry and longer duration hunts where you're camping, is your shelter and sleep system, which I'll do a little breakdown of that as well. But if you have any questions, hit us up on YouTube, or you can hit us up on Instagram or Facebook at Timber Ninja Outdoors. Happy to answer any questions, and if there's other information you'd like to get some feedback on or get a review on, please just let us know. I'll be releasing more of these instructional type videos to share the knowledge that I have. There's a lot of people who have more knowledge than me, but I have a fair amount and willing to share that best I can. So thank y'all, and talk to you soon.